Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us with Business on the Real with Eli Thompson. Today's guest, we have Dr. Donnetta Watson. I'm going to read a little about this wonderful woman. It is an honor to have you here. I hope you're doing okay today.
Yes, ma'am, I am. Thank you for the honor.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Ms. Watson is known as the launch strategist. She is a seasoned entrepreneur, business professional, community activist, and ex-government manager. She has a PhD in entrepreneurial studies, a Master's of Science in Quality Systems Management, and worked for the federal government for 17 years, 14 of which was for the U.S. Census Bureau, as a management and supervisory statistician overseeing 3 medical research studies for CDC in 6 states. She is known for getting results, often placing within the top 3 in the nation in data quality, production, and budget. Now today, Ms. Donnetta can be found guiding the National Black Mastermind Group, an awesome and amazing group. She founded that in 2015. And in May 2019, she felt her life calling was to address the lack of access to capital reported by 80% of the Black entrepreneurial community, and funding initiatives which offers the Black Mastery Program, which is a 24-week accelerated intensive business program. She calls it the real road to success. Welcome, Ms. Watson. How are you? How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on the program today. It is indeed an honor to talk about this thing that I am so passionate about and have been for quite some time. I just didn't realize the whole impact of what is happening in the Black entrepreneurial community. And I guess God, tapped me on the shoulder and changed my whole course of my direction in life. And here I am today.
Yes, ma'am. And the way that we met was through the Black CEO morning show. That's how I found out about you. And then I started following you. I was following you before then, but still didn't know the impact you were having even there. Will you share a little bit about that?
Yes, I started the Black Mastermind Group in 2015, and I met Shay and Trevor from Black CEO back in 2017. And I have to be real honest with you, I really didn't think I had what God was needing to run the National Black Mastermind Group. So I partnered with Black CEO, and after 2 years, I realized that God didn't tell me to move in the direction I was moving in. And, I had one of those come to Jesus meetings. I went to a conference and stood there and watched a gentleman speak about being number 2 and settling for being in the background and pushing other people. And God was requiring of him to step out. And he's looking right at me. And I'm like, is this an intervention, God? You're going to put me on blast right now. God has an amazing sense of humor. Because just a few months before then, I had told God, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. And so I was actually an owner of several venues, 3 venues in my city, and my daughter had one. And so I have been the Black Martha Stewart for the last 30 some odd years. I have been the wedding planner, the event planner, the decorator, the event designer, the florist. I have been all of that in my 35 years of being an entrepreneur. And in 13 years ago, I started teaching for the Joseph Business School, Dr. Winston's program in Chicago, Illinois, and I'm an adjunct professor for them. And I teach entrepreneurship and work and coach and mentor other entrepreneurs. So that's just what I enjoy. But for me to be now in the seat that is my life, I never would have dreamed that God would have turned my life in the direction that he did. But it is evident and also true that when you start on your entrepreneurial journey, the business you start initially is generally not the one you're going to end up with. I teach that, but I had to live through it. So at some point I closed all of my buildings. I shut everything down. And my life just took on a direction of its own. And I had to go back and pick up the National Black Mastermind Group because I heard God say, I never told you to lay that down. Go back and get what I gave you. And I'm like, okay. And May of 2019, I went back and I picked it up. And I've been running with this vision ever since. And I have to tell you, God has supplied everything that we need. we are currently opening the Business Mastery Program in 6 different states in January. You know, I'm honored. I told God I would go even if I'm afraid. And so I'm going, but to be able to impact people's lives at the level that we are impacting, it is truly God. And it's a privilege to help our people get on the right road when it comes to real business, not, hobbies, hookups, and hustles, but
Yes.
real business, and establishing something that can be wealth and legacy based, that can be handed down to other generations. So long story short, that's where I'm at today.
And it's an
I am
amazing
committed
journey.
to our people. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. It's such an amazing journey. And just to hear the passion in your voice when you talk about it,
Yeah.
it's just like raising your child. You know, you're so passionate about that child. You want the very best, and you
Yes.
pour everything that you have in your heart into that. And then when it's time for them to grow up through those different stages, you have to sit back sometimes and let it do what it's going to do.
Amen. That is so
So,
true. That is so true. We had 15 participants graduate from the program just this August.
uh-huh.
And we started with 24 in the program this semester. We're down to 18 that are really committed to the journey. And just to see and to remember what that first group, what their language was about and how they interacted when they first came into the program. And to see one of them contacted me who went through an investor session, which is when investors are considering investing in your business. And he called me immediately to tell me that the first thing they wanted to know was my break even, my profit analysis, my profit margins, and my financial projections. And he said, I knew those answers. And so I felt like, okay, God, they got it. And
Yeah.
this is what we're teaching, running the business by the numbers, which most of us do not do. Run our business from a financial perspective, that every decision that we make is made from a financial analysis that you do of the decision.
Yes.
Recently had one of our graduates contact me and was considering making an investment. And, I had to get on her because I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Where is your analysis? Get the pencil and paper and the calculator. Let's run the numbers, because you can't make decisions on anything else in business but the numbers. The numbers will tell you if what you're planning to do is a go or a no-go. And based on the parameters that you set for making financial decisions in business, those are your markers. And so to have her do that analysis on paper and then to tell me what those numbers were telling her, and the number said no go. And so this is what's lacking in our community. And I believe the business world knows that we have missed those financial skills to be able to establish a business running by financial principles. And because of that, it's been quite difficult for us to be funded, as well as the type of business models we start and the structure of our businesses. I have to plug this in right here, that out of that 2.5 million businesses we had in the marketplace last year, 96% of them did not employ anyone. 4% of the business models had employees. 96 were sole proprietors and didn't have employees. Well, no one in the lending world will lend a single red cent to a business model that's a sole proprietor. The number one reason we can't access capital is the type of business models we run. Number two reason we can't access capital is how we've structured the business. If you are a sole proprietor, single entity business model, you will not access capital, because that's money that's going to you. And how they feel as if something happened to you when you left the bank with the check in your hand, they lost their money. And they only will fund business models that have employees. and fund business models that are structured a certain way. So as well, the dollars that they invest in the business is indeed what they call an investment. And you have to have a strategy to show a return on the dollars. And most of our community, we go to lenders to pay the bills. And that's there's only 5 things a lender will fund, and paying the bills they will not. So they basically say, if you can't manage your own money, why are we going to give you our money? And
Correct.
our community hasn't structured our financial business side of the business in a way to show that we can manage paying a loan back, or how we run the business. We have multiple revenue stream models instead of a single entity revenue stream model. There's so many small factors that are affecting us being able to access capital. And I want our community to have a fair chance at getting a seat at the table. And our financial position is what they use to determine if we can remain at, not only just get to the table, remain at the table. And so
Yes.
I'm really passionate about getting this thing turned around for our people.
Yes, ma'am. And it's a great program that you have. Can you share just a little bit about the actual program? Because
Yes,
it's very structured. It's very with the business focus in mind, which is absolutely marvelous. And you know, it's intense, but it's the intensity is on purpose, because true business is an intense structure.
Yes, I just shared that with some students in the class just the other day. It's intentional that the program is intense and accelerated, because only the strong do survive in business. Business is not easy. Somehow we romanticize business, and it is difficult to be managing that level of financial responsibility. And so we want our entrepreneurs to feel that squeeze. We want them to rise up to that level of thinking that's necessary. So in the program, we have 5 tracks in the program, which are pre-launch to 3 years. Those newbies and people are considering, man, if I could catch everybody before they do that, jumping out there in business, bootstrapping their own financial life, their personal financials, their savings to start the business. If I can catch them before they start and put the right strategies in place and how to fund the vision before you start the vision. So I'm real passionate about the pre-launch to 3 years in business. Then we have 5 to 10 years in business, 10 to plus years in business, and we have a Millionaire Masterclass. And all of that is because over the years we've learned when you put a bunch of people in a room together, the weaker ones will usually stay silent, and the stronger ones, the instructor will teach to the stronger participant. So we segmented everyone so that we have 2 groups in the class, pre-launch to 3 years, 3 to 5 years, 10 years to 10 plus years. And then our Millionaire Masterclass, where we do quarterly retreats for them, and we're still building up to that level. So as a person comes into the program, the first thing we work on is mindset. We have to change our minds on how we see ourselves, the limiting beliefs that we have about what we can do and what we can achieve. I've learned this from Black CEO, breaking the addiction to our labor. We have such a labor-based mentality as a culture of people. We think we have to work for everything. We have not been taught the principle of using other people's time, energy, and effort into producing the results in our business. That's why 96% of us do not have employees in our businesses. And how to take that paradigm about who we are as a people and what success really is and what a business really should. Most often, most entrepreneurs are paying their business instead of the business paying them a salary.
Yes.
So we work on mindset throughout the whole program, because the reason you're an entrepreneur is to create a lifestyle, not a job. Not something you have to report to 5, 6, 7 days a week, 10 to 20 hours a day. That is not what entrepreneurship is. You've a glorified job and you don't have a business. So we want to get our minds reshaped that the business is supposed to provide me with the desires of my heart. the lifestyle I so desire to have, my business is supposed to produce that. Once we get the mindset open, then we can put principles of success in the heart and the mind and the spirit of the entrepreneur. Then we begin to work on organization and operational strategies, marketing and sales strategies, financial and funding strategies. But until we get the mindset renewed, we will continue to believe that we are supposed to work a full-time plus job and
Yes.
pay ourselves less than minimum wage. And that's the condition of the majority of the Black entrepreneur community. And we have to teach us that's not the real way to run a business. The business is supposed to provide a lifestyle for you, and a good one at that. And
Yes,
putting the right financial principles in place that you can take that business model, because we are spiritual beings and commanded to manifest the lifestyle you were supposed to have from being a CEO of a company, not an
Yes.
employee in a glorified job.
Yes,
That's our
yes.
program in the nutshell. So we spend a lot of time stripping things off before we can put something new on. And I guarantee you our greatest challenge is our mindset.
Yes, and that's with any culture, but ours has been shackled for so long
Yes.
by so many things, and we've run into so many roadblocks. And that's why I said your program is phenomenal. I'm thankful that it exists
Thank you.
and it's growing by leaps and bounds, which is
Yes.
awesome.
Yes.
I just saw you do a live on, and you're recruiting some leadership in different areas.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
We operate with the principle of for us, by us, with us. We want Black entrepreneurs training other Black entrepreneurs. In the business training world today, most education is being done by people who are not Black, and as well those who do not or have not ever owned a business. And I wholeheartedly believe business is spiritual. And it's a spiritual impartation that is received when you are learning from someone who's been there, done that, and succeeded, or been there, done that, and failed. And we believe that those principles that have been applied are the principles that will stick. But if you're textbooking the whole process, there's no experiential knowledge that's being passed down to the entrepreneur. And we know how we learn. We know how we think, and we can address the paradigms and the limiting beliefs and the issues that we're faced with in our community as we teach and train the program. So we use our own community. But our first thing is we have a Train the Trainer program. So we take all of our leaders and they go through the Train the Trainer program. Why? So that they can have the knowledge, skills, and ability to train from the concepts we've created. And they experience the whole program, but in an even more accelerated pathway. Leaders go 4 months, where the community goes 6 months. The leaders go through the program in 4 months. All of the concepts are demonstrated. We operate from a see and do principle of learning. You see it, you experience it before you are required to do it. So all leaders go through the program, the Train the Trainer, get the principles, get an understanding how to apply them because they applied them on their own business. And then they are prepared to train the program in their local community. So we're on our second Train the Trainer class. All of our leaders are going through the program now. Second class, our first class graduated August 1st. Our second class is in their first month. And then they will be ready in January for us to open training sites, all virtual, but in each of those communities. So that's Kansas City, Dallas, Houston, Atlanta, Washington, D.C., and Hampton Roads, Virginia. We are grateful. And so we have some spots open in some of those cities. We're recruiting leaders so that when the program opens, we have all 7 leaders in place. And then we had a goal of 19 affiliate groups. There's certain cities that we had built relationships, and we have a desire to be in those cities, especially where there are a large population of Black entrepreneurs. We want to make sure that we're in those cities. And as well, those cities that have experienced the majority of the business closures. We want to get in those cities and help restart those businesses in our community. But this time to start them with a stronger entrepreneurial financial literacy. That's my phrase I coined, entrepreneurial financial literacy. And they'll do much better running their businesses the second time around.
Now, I want to jump back to something that I read out of your bio, because you were a manager for the Census Bureau. And because we are in the year of the census, how are you able to use those skills and to make a bigger impact? And also, how are you seeing the cities that you're working in growing with the census going on at this time?
Well, I can address that. I've worked on two, what they call decennial census operations. That's the 10-year census projects. I've worked on two of them in my career with the government, with the Census Bureau. And what I can say is, at some point in time, I was ready to leave the government, and God said it wasn't time. And he told me to take a look around at the organization, because he sent me in there to learn what I was going to need in my business. And so at the time, I really didn't put the two together, but I did pay attention. The Census Bureau operates from a decentralized workforce. So all of our staff are working from home. And we were divided in territories across the nation. And we had operations duplicated in all of our territories to meet the needs of the population of people when it came to doing the population count. But when I became part of there is a decennial census operation and a standard month-to-month survey operation. Every tabulation or statistic you hear across the media, that data has been collected through the Census Bureau operations. So for a period of time, I did the economic study, which was how they determine the cost of living adjustment every year. Consumption of products, goods, and services from the manufacturer to the retail site, from the retail site and being consumed by the consumer. So I ran that study and learned a lot and taught a lot of classes on micro and macroeconomics as a part of the management team. But my last 8 years was spent overseeing the medical research studies. And we did studies on healthcare, which also shows the disparities across the board on healthcare. Although the protocols are national based on health conditions, doctors should treat a patient in a certain format based on the condition established by healthcare protocols. And those protocols should be standard across the nation, but yet there's still disparities in healthcare. So we did research on outpatient healthcare facilities, in hospital facilities, mortality rates on second admissions. We did research studies with the patient to determine if the care they were getting was the right care for the condition that they had. That's the level of data was being collected every month by the Census Bureau. And every statistic that is representing our community comes from studies. And I want to put a plug in how important it is for our community to be counted. The Black community has always been difficult to count. We call it enumeration. And how, because we don't trust as people, limiting beliefs, paradigm shifting, we don't trust the government, but the Census Bureau study allows your constituents in Congress to know how many people are going to be needing, not just Black people, but how many people in that city, how many people in that state are going to be needing services. And the federal dollars that are allocated for every state in the nation comes from the census data by ethnic breakdown and population. And we are the hardest community to enumerate, to count. And then second is the Hispanic community. But because they've made a very strong effort to do the surveys in other languages, it is helping to fill the gap for the other communities. And here we have still a tremendous difficulty counting the Black community. And that's only having a huge negative impact on our ability to have federal dollars for programs in the cities and states where we live. So if I can put a plug as an ex-manager I can say, please, people, fill out your survey. It takes 2 minutes. I did mine online the day it came in, and you can still go online and complete your census survey because those dollars are going to go somewhere. Why not your community?
And isn't that going to help the Black business owners? I mean, we don't think about how it impacts the full cycle of the
Yes.
money that's in the community.
The
Because
dollars the federal grant, the dollars the federal government gives are divided up over all the programs in that particular state. Any subsidized program, healthcare, childcare, education, transportation, everything, grants for programs throughout the cities, all come from the population count. How many people in this community, based on household size and income levels, would be in need of services in the community? That tabulation of data comes from the Census Bureau. And without those numbers, and as well, the thing that we need to understand, which is so important, is that the seats are in Congress are administered or divided up based on population count. That population count, the Census Bureau is the only tool they'll use to determine the population count. So if the Black community is resistant to being counted, then the number of seats to represent our community can decline. And I'm deeply concerned from someone who has worked on decennial operations. Number one, there was some serious efforts to prevent the Census Bureau from starting its project on time, which was very evident with the nature of our political leadership today, that if they can't use something to their advantage, then they begin to impact it from being successful. I'm gonna just say that like that, because I worked on the inside. I know when the efforts should have began for the census, and nothing started on time because there was no sign off on funding for census operations. Why? Because the population, the minority, the people of color population has dramatically increased due to the mixing of the races. Those population counts have an impact on the real visual of the American population. For some reason, those numbers, they didn't want those numbers counted. They didn't want a real good picture of the Black community, the brown community, the yellow community, the red community. So there's been some manipulation to prevent the Census Bureau from being successful. And I know that this is going to be one of the most highly contested Census Bureau counts because it didn't start on time. And what normally takes 3 years to do, they've had 1.5 years to 2 to kick off. And with the coronavirus, we know that households are not going to be counted accurately because it's difficult to count people as is in the Black community. And now we have the coronavirus, which was disparingly affecting the Black community. So those numbers are not going to be accurate. And what is going to happen is when they shift the number of seats in the House and the Senate based on the white population count, the disparity is going to be felt for a long term if we don't get our people to take advantage of this opportunity to be counted. There's huge implications that will show up 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years from now. The result of what's happening in our political environment and the result of what's happening with the coronavirus. We have to wake up, people of color. We just have to.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm reading here also that one of your life's goal, or your life's goal, is to create a pipeline for the Black American entrepreneurial community to establish business relationships with entrepreneurs in Africa. And that's something that I do as well. And that's another reason we connected, because you asked me what was the name of my ministry, and it's Tikkun Olam, which means like bridging the gap.
Yes.
And so, you know, I've been doing that as well. And I have a lot of friends in Africa who are business owners. We sit down and we have chats, and just help each other. So what are you doing in that area? And I'm not
Well,
trying to get away from what we were talking about,
oh
but
no, this is, go ahead, I'm
there's a
sorry.
in the diaspora. We don't understand more of who we are, okay, as a people. And so that connection that you're making is vital to our existence and to our prosperity, because that's another link that has been broken by our situation being in the United States,
Yes.
from our heritage.
Yes.
So, things like that really get me excited because, you're doing something like that on two planes. And being able to bring those two planes together gives it wings to fly.
You said the thing that I'm most passionate about. Even for me as being a Black American, Africa was nothing I really ever desired to be a part of. They played such archaic images of Africa to us in the media. Whenever they've shown Africa, it's always been bush country. It's always been someone with a spear and a loin cloth on, or starving children with flies all over them. That's all they've ever portrayed Africa. People walking around in the dust and the children, starving. Yes, that was Africa of the past. But Africa, I met a lady from South Africa and Joseph Business School. And when she began to talk about the propaganda and the misrepresentation of Africa in the American media, she had such fire in her belly. She was so upset over how Africa has been portrayed to Black people. And at that time, she was saying, it is propaganda. It is to cause you to have no interest in your own homeland. Well, we weren't ever raised to think of Africa as our homeland. We were never raised to have an identification with Africa. But she began to talk and to teach. And she said, South Africa is a modern city, no different than New York. If you can imagine New York, you can imagine South Africa. Well, no one had ever said that to me. That was about 9, 10 years ago. And so from that day on, I'm like, well, then why are we not seeing that on television? Why are we only seeing to this day, babies with bloated bellies and dirt huts and people walking around with no clothes and shoes? And she said, that's propaganda. They don't want you to desire Africa because they want Africa for themselves. And if Black America and Caribbean Black Africans would wake up and come home, it would be the strongest and the most powerful nation on the face of the earth. Well, she planted those seeds in me. Now, forward fast, a young man that I worked for at the Census Bureau was from Ghana, Africa. He started an orphanage for educating children, predominantly girls, because back 10, 20 years ago, then about 17 years ago when I first met him, they weren't educating girls at the same rate as boys because they needed them to be helping at home. So he started an orphanage and an education program for children that had been left on the street, predominantly girls. And I began to pay for the education of one of the children there. And I paid for her education all the way through college. And over the years, she would ask me to come visit. And literally, I really was scared to go to Africa. I really was. I still had bush country mentality, lions and tigers walking around and in bush country and huts, and all of that was all I knew of Africa. And when I started the Black Mastermind Group, and even with my working with Black CEO as the executive chapter director, when I started the organization back up, I knew that I wanted to have some interaction with Africa. And my friend was from Ghana, and the young lady I had adopted was from Ghana. So I made a vow that I would go and visit Ghana. So when I reached out to Ghana, to her, to let her know what I was doing, she said, we have to have this in Ghana. So they put me in contact, one conversation after another. And there I was headed to Ghana. October of 2019, we spent 10 days in Ghana. And the work that we did leading up to that, I was able to meet one of the Queen Mothers here in America, met her people. She said, whatever I needed, come. Whatever I wanted to do, come. Raised enough money for every person that needed a seat to come to the business training program I did. We raised enough money for 100 people to be in the seat in that training program in Ghana. It was an amazing opportunity, but more than anything, when I stepped off the plane onto the ground and looked around, I got angry. I got angry because America is lying to us, and we are not even remotely aware of the amount of censorship and propaganda we have been fed concerning Africa. It's a beautiful country. We stayed in houses just like my own.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was like, the only one that had the worst roads in the world and no street lights hardly anywhere, and everybody drives at the same time, but that's in most foreign countries. But when we were at in Ghana, one of the communities reminded me of the community that's one of the wealthy communities right here in Kansas City. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This looks like home. Now, I do have to say I was greatly alarmed at how much influence China has gotten in Ghana and some of the other countries. And so while I was there, because I can't keep my mouth shut, I said what I needed to say about Africa being prostituted by so many other countries and raped and pillaged by so many other countries that, and so one of the things that they said to me is that when we called for the diaspora, no one came, but China came, Germany came, Australia came, but America didn't come. And I said, because you didn't call the people, you called the leaders who was not really committed to Africa, but to the wealth that they can assume in America. And I didn't bite my tongue. We didn't know you were calling us. Even the return, 2019 being the year of return.
Yes.
Although they had over 100,000 Black Americans travel to Ghana and to other nations in Africa during the year 2019, it did not have the impact that it should have had if it would have made it from legislative acts to community organizations across America. And so because of my relationship with the Queen Mother and the others in Africa, we're going back. We were to go this year, October, but because of the coronavirus, we're going to suspend all of our travel until everything is clear. But we're taking entrepreneurs to Africa, partnering and pairing them with other entrepreneurs from America to Africa, because this is indeed our heritage. It's our inheritance. Africa belongs to us. If we woke up tomorrow and Black America exited America, do you know America would collapse and Africa become the powerhouse in the world? If we can just get our people to wake up concerning Africa, we don't have to take this nonsense that's happening here in America. Black lives will never matter to white America.
No,
never.
Not at all. Not at all. Not
We
at
can
all.
march every day of the week. And as long as they're sitting in the seats of power, and as long as old white men are legislating our country against Black people, it will never be, Black lives will never matter in America. But in Africa, it will be our home.
Yes, indeed. And, that's one of the other reasons that your program is so important, because money makes things so different. It just changes things. And it's not the love of money, it's what we can do, because it's a tool.
Yes, money is indeed. And for Black America, I want to say this, because we've been taught from the pulpit that the love of money is the root of all evil, and chasing after money. We associate entrepreneurship and business with chasing money. And because of that, we've got a negative connotation, a negative relationship with money. And
Yes.
most of us do. Very few Black people have a real good understanding of money and have a love respect for money, not a love for it,
Mhm.
but a love respect, because money is a friend. It
Yes.
answereth all things, the word of God says. And we need money to exist in this society that we have today. But the church have done a disservice to us, teaching us that having money constitutes pride and arrogance, instead of having money as a tool gives you the ability to do more for the kingdom, to do more for the people, and to create things like what we've created for the Black masterminds. Having access to resources gives you the ability to address the problems in your own community. That's why our community is the way it is. If our Black businesses were strong enough and had the resources that they should, in order to hire our own community, we would
Yes.
wipe unemployment totally off the map
Yeah.
for our
Yes,
community.
indeed.
If
Yes,
just
indeed.
if that 94% of our Black entrepreneurial community would just hire one or two of our Black people, we would be done with unemployment and pay them a fair living wage.
Yes.
We would be done with poverty in our community. Crime would go away. And one of the things we missed is that everybody hires their own people but Black people.
Indeed.
Hispanics hire Hispanics. Asians hire Asians. Jewish hire Jewish. Middle Easterners hire Middle Easterners. And white people hire white people.
Yes.
But Black people do not hire our own community. We don't even know the responsibility we have to create jobs for our community. So unfortunately, when we do get money, because we don't know what the responsibility of the assignment that comes with money, then we heap it on ourselves, and our
Mhm.
community continues to suffer. So money is a necessary tool, but in business, there's a whole nother level of business that's happening out there that if you came to the table with money, you would not get in. There's a level of business that is electronic currency. They do
Yes.
not operate in cash. And
No.
so when they see the Black community still operating with cash, they also know we've not moved to the next level of
No.
business.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
keeping us out of a lot of the things that would really move our Black entrepreneurial community to the next level. So it's so much happening that we're not aware of. And I take this from Dr. George Frazier. We've really partied enough. And so as an
Mhm.
organization, we don't party, we educate. We don't have anything to party and celebrate. Really, honestly, if we took a real good analysis of our community, we're on the bottom of every spectrum.
Yes.
The only
We
way
are.
we're going to move out of that condition is we have to learn that credit is a tool in business. See,
Mhm.
not money anymore. Credit is a tool in business, not for your personal life. So bad debt, yes. Personal life, yes. Good debt, business, yes. So credit is the tool for business. But we'll buy a car on credit for 35, 45, 55,000. But we won't get a business loan for 25, 35, 45,000. But we'll finance a car, but we won't get a loan for the business. And that's why we have these labor-based business models that are unable to grow, because we are still in a mindset of operating with cash, and business is far gone from
It
using
sure.
cash.
It sure
So
has.
we've got work to do in educating our community. We have to think like a business person, act like a business person, and live like a business person. And if we
Yes,
can
indeed.
succeed in that, and then we've got to understand that the wealth that has been bestowed upon us, when we get to that measure of wealth, that those dollars have an assignment, and that assignment is back in your community. We take that responsibility very, very serious, that when we amass a level of wealth in our business, we must immediately begin to evolve our companies into one that can impact our own community.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, Dr. Watson, it has been a sheer pleasure. It really, really has. I just love your excitement and I love
Thank you.
your fortitude, and the things that you're doing in the Black community are absolutely amazing. So,
I'm grateful.
so would you just share some closing words with us, please, about where you go
Yeah.
from here?
Um, Man, if I can say anything to our people today, is that we've been so caught up in trying to find a leader, and
Mhm.
not realizing we all are visionary leaders. We've been told, and we have bought the lie that we can't work together. And
Mm.
that collaborative energy from like-minded people is what we've missed. Every community works collaboratively. Every community has collaborative economics, but our community. And we must transcend into a communal organism. We must begin to operate as an organism. In a communal organism, there is no leader.
Right.
There's a center, and that center is all of our like energy, like mindset, like thinking vibrating throughout the organism. That's how we move. There's a lot happening right now, but it's all pockets in different places. And we've not taken advantage of the platforms that are available for us to really get a collective message and begin to move very succinctly, very strategically in repairing our community and our communal mindset, our community as a whole, respect, love, honor, all of those things that somehow didn't pass down to these generations that are operating today. Leaders, that visionary leaders, have a responsibility to impact the community that's around them. And if we link up together, all of us that are visionary leaders, can you imagine the example that will be set forth for our children? But also linking our mindset toward home.
Mm-hmm.
I wholeheartedly believe there's going to come a time in this country where we're going to have to make a decision whether we want to remain or leave, because the economic condition of our country cannot remain the same after the pandemic. We're not even in the middle of the breaking of the storm. It still has a journey to go. There's no way, from my understanding of economics, that you can stop the economic wheel and light a match and start it up again the next day. It's just not going to be that easy. And I want our Black community to realize we do have a place called home. And if we put our eyes toward Africa and begin to put our talent, our energy, our efforts collectively together to take the brightest of minds to Africa, they're asking and begging for us to come and help them, come and help structure them, come and help rebuild Africa. It belongs to us. When we put our focus on Africa and begin to take our talent, our gifts, where they will be appreciated, America will come to its knees and repent. But until then, it will never repent. And our energy should be collaborating with Africa to strengthen it, and then to take our people home.
Amen. Such a good word. Such a good word. I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And Dr. Watson, I appreciate your being right here with us on Business on the Real. And one of the reasons that I want to keep this platform open is for us.
Yes.
Because we don't often have a visual platform where we can say what we feel in our hearts and share what's going on in our actual communities, not what is broadcast as yellow journalism. We don't have that. Yeah, it is. And so that's another reason I want to keep this platform open.
Well, I am celebrating you for doing it. I know the times that I'm on is a huge commitment to set your time aside and be a place where our people can hear different voices that are speaking to them today. Don't stop. Keep it open. Bring every voice that has something that would resonate with our community to help us to move to the next level of life business, relationships, family, and most importantly, community.
Yes,
Thank you for
ma'am.
making this available.
Thank you. We thank you for being with us today on Business on the Wheel, and we'll see you the next time. Until the next time, ciao for now.